So, in general terms of the horror genre, I've usually found I'm not that much of a fan of the horror genre. I mean, if it's your thing, fair enough. I just never really saw the appeal of it. Hell, I remember actually being scared of the trailer for the original 2003 Haunted Mansion, and everybody knows what kind of a goofy film that was. And even with zombie movies, I usually find I'm not that much of a fan of like the pure zombie movies, like Dawn of the Dead or 28 Days Later, just not my thing. However, I have found that if you inject an element of comedy into a zombie film, then I'm usually a lot more receptive to it. Hell, like 2004's Shaun of the Dead or 2015's Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Those had comedic elements in their films, and those actually are films that I really enjoy. And I think for me, 2009's Zombieland fits into that category very well. I mean, it's got elements of zombie films, but then it's mostly a kind of road trip comedy, and I think that does work very well for it. The film was written by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick and was directed by Ruben Fleischer. And I apologise if I mispronounced anybody's name there. It stars Jesse Eisenberg as a character who I think he's supposed to be a college student living in a dorm playing video games one night until he discovers they're now in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. He sets out to try and basically get somewhere safe and basically find his way back to Columbus so he can go see his family and they can survive the zombie apocalypse together. However, along the way, he encounters another survivor played by Woody Harrelson. Harrelson tells him basically that we don't go by names here. We don't want to form too many emotional attachments, so you go by where you're headed to. So Jesse Eisenberg starts going by Columbus, and Woody Harrelson's character goes by Tallahassee. Well, over the time that the zombie apocalypse has been going on, Columbus has created kind of his own set of rules for surviving the zombie apocalypse, including, I'm going to list a couple here, cardio. Basically, if you're fat, you're going to be taken first out by the zombies. To which, yeah. Then there's double tap, which is essentially you can shoot a zombie or go try and kill a zombie, but then always kind of make sure they're actually dead. Take a second shot, make sure they're actually dead before moving on. Beware of bathrooms. If you're locked away in a stall and a zombie can easily get underneath the kind of crawl space, then you're in trouble. Seatbelts. In the middle of a zombie apocalypse, if zombies are chasing you, make sure you've got your seatbelt on while in the car. Because if you get catapulted out through the window, then you're in trouble. Travel light. Okay, make sure you don't have to carry too much about. Don't be a hero. Although this one is later altered later in the film to, when necessary, be a hero. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Unless there's a sprint, then sprint. Limber up. Essentially, if you have to do things like climbing down a hill to get to a van, make sure you kind of limber up. Make sure you're not going to sprain yourself. A little sunscreen never hurt anybody. This is actually the last line of the film, so which, yeah, that's a fair one. Check the back seat. In the middle of a zombie apocalypse, you're trying to take a car, make sure there's no zombies in the back seat that could come and get you. And one added by Tallahassee, enjoy the little things. Anyway, while trying to kind of escape the zombie apocalypse and make their way to their locations, they end up encountering two girls who, well, seem to be in trouble, but they appear at first that the younger of the two girls has been bitten and be about to turn into a zombie. However, the two girls end up tricking them in order to steal their car. They later meet up with the girls again when they try and hijack them again, and the two girls are Wichita, played by Emma Stone. She reveals by the end of the film her name's actually Krista, but there you go. And her younger sister, Little Rock, played by Abigail Breslin. And while Columbus and Tallahassee are just kind of trying to get west, trying to start a new life for themselves, Wichita is trying to take Little Rock to a theme park that they went to when they were younger, Pacific Playland. Basically, since the zombie apocalypse hits, Little Rock has had to grow up quite fast in order to be able to survive. And Wichita just wants to go to a place where she can be a kid again, just for a little bit. To which the four of them end up teaming up together to go on this massive road trip to escape the zombies and ultimately find a way through the zombie apocalypse and get to Pacific Playland. To which I will say that this does fit quite well into the kind of realm of comedy zombie films. As I said, like Shaun of the Dead or Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Including, I will admit, the kind of start of the film I feel is a little slow going, but once we pass the halfway mark, it gets funny really quickly. For example, there's a bit where they're kind of passing through a city, and Columbus suggests, well, maybe we stop somewhere and just rest, just allow ourselves some time to sleep. And Tallahassee decides to get a map of where the stars live, and they ultimately end up crashing at Bill Murray's house. Which, while it seems as though Bill Murray isn't there, eventually a zombie version of Bill Murray actually comes into the house until he. And when he kind of encounters Tallahassee and Wichita, I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be funny if it turns out Bill Murray isn't actually a zombie, but is just kind of pretending to be in order to survive? And what do you know, they do that. I wouldn't admit that's one of two jokes that I was able to cotton on to quite quickly. To which it's nice to see them just having fun. Columbus showing Little Rock, Ghostbusters, and some other Bill Murray films, which I do like. The other joke that I will admit I could actually see coming was there's a part when Tallahassee and Wichita try to kind of, well, they go to kind of look for Columbus and Little Rock and find them in Bill Murray's cinema area just watching a film, and Bill Murray says, I'm going to creep up behind them and give them a little bit of a scare, to which I was thinking, Columbus is going to shoot him, isn't he? And yeah, I could work that out quite like that. Ultimately, this film, as I say, I do think it does get better in the second half, especially once they actually get to Pacific Playland and the kind of zombies start attacking. I do think it was kind of funny, although I will admit some of it I did start to question some of the realness of it. For example, when Wichita and Little Rock have turned on all the rides and just go to have a good time with the zombies coming, I was like, I'm not entirely sure about this, but aren't each ride required to have attendants just so they know when to turn it off? I don't think you can just turn on a roller coaster, then just hop onto it and just ride it round. Like, don't you have to have somebody to press the buttons? At least that's what I thought. But as I said, I do think this film is quite funny, and it does do really well at it. In terms of which I think is the best comedic zombie movie, I think Shaun of the Dead for me is the gold standard. That kind of film perfected it. As to whether Zombieland is better than Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, that's a little more difficult to determine. Because I think if I looked at them objectively, Zombieland I think is the stronger film, does have the stronger story. But I think Scout's Guide took a little more kind of risk with some of the jokes. Like, there's one joke that I'm not entirely sure if I can say it on YouTube due to what happened, but when they're escaping and they have to use a trampoline and a certain part of the zombie... If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about, but as I said, I do think Scout's Guide took a little more risk with some of the jokes, whereas some of the jokes in Zombieland do work, but others seem a little safe. But I do also like the camaraderie that kind of builds with them throughout the film. Like, when Tallahassee... Actually, most of Tallahassee's goal throughout the film is just to get a Twinkie. Like, he and Columbus end up finding a kind of van run off the road, and they realise that it's kind of a certain van, and Tallahassee goes looking in it for a Twinkie, only to find the only thing in it are snowballs. To which, while Columbus likes snowballs, Tallahassee goes like, no, they're rubbish. But well, you do get a kind of full-on character moment with Tallahassee kind of when they're all playing Monopoly in Bill Murray's house and they're kind of talking about their lives. While it's thought that Tallahassee is the only person he really cared about was his dog, it's actually really wasn't actually talking about his dog, but rather his son. And when the zombies kill his son, Columbus admits, yeah, that you kill a man's son, the gloves come off. I will also admit I do kind of like the relationship that's built slowly between Columbus and Wichita. Like, yes, okay, it's kind of another 3-day romance, if that, or 2-day romance, or whatever. But I do like some of the chemistry moments they have together. Like, when they're kind of talking through about their school days, and Columbus mentions how back in school Sadie Hawkins danced, nobody invited him, and then Wichita just decides, no, that won't do. So she kind of gets up and says to him, on behalf of all 8th grade girls, you want to dance? I do also like that while they kind of hate each other, I do like the relationship that builds between Tallahassee and Little Rock as well. Like, after Tallahassee reveals about his son and everything, he kind of goes to have some target practice with shooting his guns. And then Little Rock joins him, and then he tells her, that take a deep breath before you take a shot. It'll help steady yourself. I do like that they do have a relationship that builds. I mean, yeah, sure, the girls do try and nick the car later, but at the same time, I do think that this is good. So, as I said, I think Shaun of the Dead is like the gold standard of comedy zombie movies. Zombieland or Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, I think Scout's Guide took more risks in terms of the jokes, but if I'm looking at it from a purely kind of technical standpoint, I think Zombieland is probably the stronger film. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this 2009 classic? Apparently they did release a sequel to it in 2019, Zombieland Double Tap, which I haven't seen, but I don't know, maybe after this film I'll go and seek it out. But until then, Zombieland 2009 I actually thought was a pretty good comedic zombie movie. Anyway, what are your thoughts on it? Let me know down below in the comments. And until next time, see ya.